Welcome to Lindamood-Bell Radio. I'm Dave Hungerford for Lindamood-Bell. In today's episode, I spoke with Robert Cardiff, a board member of the Lindamood-Bell Foundation and a former Lindamood-Bell student. The Lindamood-Bell Foundation seeks to provide life-changing learning to individuals of all ages by providing scholarships to attend a Lindamood-Bell Learning Center. Visit their website to learn more, sign up for scholarship updates, and find out how you can help more students at lindamood-bell-foundation.org. Here's today's episode. Today, I am here with Robert Cardiff, who is a board member on the Lindamood-Bell Foundation. And I met Robert a few years ago and learned about his story, his experience with Lindamood-Bell. And it's really fascinating how it's grown over the years and how he has evolved his relationship with Lindamood-Bell over a couple decades. And maybe you can just tell us about it from when you were a young student in elementary school.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm grateful to be here today, Dave. You know well because we've spoken, but Lindamood-Bell absolutely changed my life. And it actually started out when I was in first grade. And, the schools that I've been going to identified that I had a reading problem and a comprehension problem, which is pretty common. And fortunate for me, my family, they met somebody that worked at Lindamood-Bell, and my parents at the time were able to afford me the opportunity to go to Lindamood-Bell. And so over the next couple of summers, I was able to have quite a bit of help from Lindamood-Bell. And basically what happened from there is by the fourth grade, I had off the chart testing scores, and I skipped fifth grade. And from that point on, my education was like a rocket ship.
And if I recall correctly, you had been told by a teacher or an administrator that things were pretty dire. I mean, this was not just a slight delay in learning to read. It was pretty serious, wasn't it?
I mean, I got held back. I had to repeat first grade twice. So, and what comes along with that is I felt dumb, and
Sure.
I kind of got put in that bucket of like, you're gonna have a learning problem for the rest of your life. And I mean, as a young kid, you feel helpless, and there's nothing I could do. And so, yeah, I definitely struggled. But there was a moment in time when I was going through the Lindamood-Bell, and I said, I remember vividly telling my mom, I said, Mom, if I get my reading and my comprehension back to where it needs to be, can I skip back to the grade that I originally was? And she said, yeah. And she probably thought I was crazy at the time.
But you did it.
Yeah, did it. And, and now I'm extremely passionate about, other people and families and children being able to not only find Lindamood-Bell, but being able to afford it.
And I think it was around 3 years ago that somehow I had gotten word of your experience and came down to San Diego and met you. And I remember we walked through the center. What was that like for you to walk through a center that had experience, and I frankly had not met an adult that remembered that experience so vividly that you did?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because as I was walking through, it like took me back in time to where, I remember my mom and I living at a motel because we're not from San Diego, and that's where it was in San Diego, the Lindamood-Bell facility. And my mom and I left my sister and my brother and my dad for, a month. And, we're staying at this little motel because, it's expensive. And remember I was walking through the Lindamood-Bell, this beautiful building, and I couldn't help but being just so grateful. And I remember, all the time that I walked in as a little kid, like not knowing that like literally the help that I was getting was going to change my life. It was pretty amazing.
Great. And we made a video, and I'll just say that it's available on Lindamood-Bell YouTube page. You then were invited to become part of the foundation. How did that all occur?
Yeah, so, I really want to pay it forward because I felt like I got very lucky. I got lucky that we found Lindamood-Bell. I felt lucky that, my parents had the ambition and the resources to allow me to go to Lindamood-Bell. And so it's always been in my heart to somehow, someday, be able to pay it forward. And so I actually reached out to one of the Lindamood-Bell team members, and I said, hey, like, who can I get in touch with that, so I can figure out how to help. And so that's when, they had said, well, we have the Lindamood-Bell Foundation. And I said, perfect. And I said, how can I help? And that's kind of how it all got started.
And it was just the foundation itself was just getting started, I believe, at that time, maybe a year or two under its belt. And now you know more than I do, certainly, about its workings. What is its, what's the goal of the foundation?
Yeah, I mean, the goal and the timing could not have been more perfect, but they had already gotten the wheels turning. And they had identified that there are parents that get their children tested and they just don't have the means to send it, because there's a lot of training and a lot of resources that goes in one-on-one during the Lindamood-Bell process, and it is
really intensive. It's typically 4 hours a day.
Extremely intensive, and so by nature, like that just, it costs money. And so the Lindamood-Bell Foundation has said, how do we give an opportunity to those children and families that don't have the means? And I think that's where it all started. And then I came alongside and I said, I want to have an impact. And so at first I wasn't a part of the Lindamood-Bell Foundation yet, but man, the support that I got when I kind of bring the idea to them about what I wanted to do, and we instantly connected.
That's nice. And you were preparing for a race.
I wanted to do a marathon, and I chose one in the fall of I think it was 2019, and it was in Death Valley. It was in November, and I kind of put the stake in the ground and said, I'm going to raise money through my friends and family and my network, and I'm going to go run a marathon in Death Valley. And it was a trail marathon, and so I had, put together this whole plan for outreaching to my friends and family and my business network. And my goal at the time, I think it was $5,000. And 2 days before the marathon, they canceled it because there was a huge storm and it washed out the trail. And I was gutted. And I said, what do I do? I was like, well, raise all this money. And so I called up my family and I said, hey, we're going to Death Valley anyways. And we already had the hotel booked. There was literally nobody there because nobody else showed up. And I had my dad drop me off, 26 miles away from the hotel. And I ran every mile of that. But it was for an amazing cause. And it's one of the more prouder moments of my life. And it's like I committed to doing something for the Lindamood-Bell Foundation, for the children, for the families, and came out the other side, and it was a pretty good feeling when I crossed that 26 miles.
I'll bet that was. You got that kind of propping you up. You can't quit on that one, right?
Anybody that's ever run a marathon, I tip my hat to you because it's hard on the body. And you get into that like 18-mile slump, and you get in that 22-mile slump, and you got to push through it. But the whole time I'm thinking in my head, like, I raised all this money, like I'm not going to let these people that believe in Lindamood-Bell down. So it was pretty amazing though when I raised the money, and the Lindamood-Bell company itself said that they were going to match it, and that was incredible. And so what I think about is that like, I could impact and change, with the effort I put in, children's lives. Like literally change their lives. Like my life was changed. And, it was an incredible experience. As a part of the foundation, you must have heard some of the stories of some recipients. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, kind of fast forward a little bit from there, within about 6 months, the foundation had actually offered me the opportunity to join as a board member. And I mean, I was like, heck yes. Like, I want to be a part of this. Like, how do we scale this? How do we, get more people doing what I just did? How do we drive this and impact lives? And so, kind of shortly after that, there was a number of donors private donors that donated as well, like outside of what I was doing. And so the Lindamood-Bell Foundation, what they do is at the kind of around springtime going into summer every year, they identify, they have candidates that get an opportunity to apply for a scholarship. And they go through a rigorous process where they literally read every application and they figure out like, how do they distribute this? Because like every child, every family, deserves the opportunity to go through this. So it's definitely hard. I mean, like, the people that are on the board that read these stories, they're crying when they're going through this because like every story is heartbreaking. Yeah. And so that process, has happened for about 3 years now. But, one of the stories, I actually got to talk to the mother. And I mean, it's this family, they're, first, immigrants from another country. And they are hardworking Americans. And, they had a little girl that had the same exact challenge as me. And so like I remember when I was interviewing her, the mother, and I had tears coming down my eyes because you see these kids and they're helpless. And when you have mothers like that and fathers like that step up and they do something about it, that is amazing. And so when you have parents that step in to that opportunity, and you have the Lindamood-Bell Foundation that it is able to enable that opportunity, that is like the most amazing thing.
That's great. Yeah, the need is ubiquitous, and the need does not regard for socioeconomic status. What would you suggest for people that, I know that you worked for an organization that had a large tech firm that had a matching program within it.
Yeah.
Lindamood-Bell has something like that too. What are things that you would suggest to people if they were interested in finding ways to not just donate themselves, but maybe augment that donation?
Oh, yeah. So I was working at the time, one of the most amazing companies, I think, in the world, Cisco Systems. It's a big technology company, on the public, trades publicly. And I found out that they had a matching program, and it was called Cisco Bright Funds Matching Program. And so when I set off to raise the funds, running that marathon, I reached out and I got Lindamood-Bell as a nonprofit, a certified nonprofit on the Cisco matching program. And so from then on out, I was able, every dollar we raised from a Cisco employee, they were able to match it 100%. And so that was amazing. And, I want to get into other ways that I think that, people that are passionate about education and reading and comprehension, or maybe have gone through the program. But like, I just want to go back to a point that's really important, is that we're so lucky here in the US because education is normal, and elementary school, middle school, high school, and then university is available to a lot of people. And sometimes we don't realize like how lucky we are. But when you can't even get started because you can't read or you can't comprehend, then the next 10 years of your life as a student, you struggle and you don't have any hope. And my strong feeling is that education is the path to prosperity, which is why I'm so passionate about paying it forward. And so I got started, with a marathon, and since then I've done 2 other races. It's my goal to do a race every year and raise money around that. And what I want to challenge people with people that have gone through the program, or their brothers and sisters, or their children, or somebody from their family, or they see another family that's struggling. Like I want to challenge. I want to like scream out at the top of my lungs. I want people to pay it forward, and figure out a way to serve others. And there's a lot of different ways for that, right? There's donating. That's one way. It's telling other people about it, or go run a marathon, or do a 5K, do something in your local community, and raise money for the Lindamood-Bell Foundation. And that's the challenge. I've done it for 3 years now, and I think collectively raised almost $30,000. And that in itself is somewhere around 6 to 7 children. And I'm getting the education that's going to change your life. And so like I'm not patting myself on the back, but I want to challenge people that like want to make a difference in the world through education, to know that the Lindamood-Bell Foundation will fully support them in their efforts to go raise funds for children.
Well, I was struck when I first met you about your sense of gratitude, and it's still impressive. I appreciate that.
Oh.
So what would you say to maybe a parent that sees that their child is starting to struggle and not quite sure why, but it's something academically related, and it's just seemingly they're not understanding maybe things that they seem like they should. They're a bright kid and maybe just aren't doing well. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I'd say that you should definitely have hope. But I'll do you one better and tell you a story. So I remember, and I don't know how I remember this, but I was a little kid. I was, I was six or seven. And I remember my dad, bursting through the schoolroom door and saying, Robert, let's go. Like my kid is not going to struggle for the rest of his life. And he didn't take no for an answer. And I know there's a lot of parents out there that are wondering, like, what do they do? Like, where do I turn? And we got really lucky because that summer after first grade, my family took a family trip camping. And we just happened to bump into somebody, like I said earlier, that had worked at Lindamood-Bell. And it just like was a light bulb went off, and my mom and dad went and got me tested. So I'd say like the first thing that parents that may have children that are struggling with reading or comprehension, it's just go get your kid tested. Lindamood-Bell will be happy to walk you through that process. And then, if it doesn't fit in your financial budget, know that the Lindamood-Bell Foundation, every year tries to give out as many scholarships as we can. And so, tell your story, let us like really understand what's going on. And if we can make that happen financially, we will. We'll do everything we can. And the whole board, wants to impact, every single life. And so that's what I would say. I would say, know that there's hope. And, my parents went through it. I've gone through it, and there's a way to a path forward.
And how can people get in touch with the foundation?
Yeah, so it's really easy. Just go to lindamood-bellfoundation.org. It's the easiest way. There's you can right on the website. You can contact us. You can also go to the Lindamood-Bell website, and there's phone numbers and there's emails. And if you just ask about the Lindamood-Bell Foundation, everybody knows about it. So please reach out. Even if it's like you don't have a child or somebody that needs help right now, but like you want to help, like contact us. Like we would love to talk to you and help you get activated and go make a difference.
And I can say from personal experience that it's a very rewarding career too. I worked in the organization, and the seeing the breakthroughs that children and adults have never gets old.
Oh,
I've seen many times.
Yeah, I know you've interviewed a lot of parents, and some of the students that have gone through this. But the whole organization has a heart to help, and that's something that's really struck me and why I want to be a part of the foundation. So I appreciate you, Dave, and the whole Lindamood-Bell Foundation.
Well, I appreciate you being on Lindamood-Bell Radio today. I will say too that if you want to see an extended video profile of Robert, it is on the Lindamood-Bell YouTube page, as is one of the little girl, it's the one I'm thinking of, who lived in the Los Angeles area, who was a recipient. Her mother spoke with us too a couple years ago, and there's a profile of her up there. It's very moving as well. So look under the Student Stories playlist. You'll find dozens and dozens of stories through that. So thank you so much for being here today, Robert.
Absolutely, Dave. And one more time, just, I challenge everybody that has been touched by Lindamood-Bell Foundation to help us go make a difference. And, I'll do everything I can to help you do that.
Great. Get out there and get your miles in.
Let's go. Have a great day.
Right.
And thank you for listening. There are two websites for you, lindamoodbellfoundation.org and lindamoodbell.com. We're of course on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media. Thanks for listening.